Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday and Happy New Year. I'm Dr. Martin. Now, before we finished 2025, I did a short video on kind of how to optimize metrics in your own office. And I've had a lot of feedback from that video. And since I did that video, I've had more and more clinicians text me, call me, send me information on social media, DM me. And they're like, this is fabulous. But what else can we do? I see all the time on Instagram, make $100,000 this month. Make $50,000 this month. Make $40,000 this month. Those are all lovely, right? And at the same time I see those, I see all of these ads for don't miss another phone call. Use this automated blah, blah that will forward the phone number. All of that, as far as I'm concerned, is complete bullshit. It's all just a gimmick. It does not replace a critical element that must be understood across your office. I'm going to tell a story and then everyone will understand this. I had a call, I think the 29th or 30th of December with a provider. It was an off-schedule call, but the doctor really wanted to prepare for the new year. And as a measure of preparing for the new year, she wanted to understand how her office was running at the time. And so as the practice owner, she started answering her own phones. Now, she'd never answered her phones before, she's the doctor. But when she started to answer her own phones, she started to see critical breakdown elements in her practice because she was the first point of exposure to her practice. Now, if you didn't see the prior video, the crux of that video was that 50 to 70% of patients will either see you and pay for a service, or they will leave your practice simply based on the first interaction with your practice. Whether that is the first phone call they make to the office or the first step they walk into the door. Now, she watched that video. And after having watched that video, she's like, well, all right, I need to see how many patients I'm losing based on the first touch point with my practice. And so she started that process by answering the phone. And she was horribly saddened because while she was on the phone, her script that she had taught all of her front office staff to use is that if a patient is calling and they ask about regenerative medicine and they say, well, how much is, an IV? She would give a price out on the phone. She was unprepared for the number of clicks that she got. Oh, well, if it's that much, I'll call you back if I can find a cheaper price. If I can't find it cheaper, then I'll come back and I'll see you. She's like, I couldn't believe that they were price shopping. She couldn't believe it. I could believe it, but she couldn't believe it. The other thing that she couldn't believe was how educated the people who were calling were, number one, and number two, how much it turned them off if she didn't pick up the phone right away, or she put them on hold. About 50% of the people that she put on hold and said, I'm sorry, on the other line, I'll be right with you, even though she was the owner of the practice and the doctor, when she did click back over, they were like, if I have to wait just to make an appointment, I'm definitely not coming to see you. The second part of the conversation was even more clairvoyant for her. She had a closer in her office. she had adopted a model very similar to a plastic surgeon. Patients would come into the office, and anyone who was interested in regenerative medicine, they would book a consultation with the closer. The closer would review all the potential things that could be offered in the practice, and they would close the client. And for closing the client, they got a percentage of whatever the sale was. Say the patient came in and was going to have an IV infusion. The IV infusion was just round numbers, $5,000. Well, the closer would get 20% of that close. So for closing that client, he got $1,000. Pretty sweet deal, right? What did she miss? She missed all of those people that could have potentially been closed by everyone else in the office. Because the only incentive in her practice was built around the closer. No one else benefited. And this brings me to the point of this entire lecture today. Before you spend another thin dime marketing your practice outside the four walls of your business, you need to do a hard reset around marketing inside the four walls of your practice. And I don't care what model you're adopting, because if you don't adopt this model, you're not optimizing your practice. As a matter of fact, you're losing money. And the model is very simple. Who sells? And the answer is everyone. Who benefits? If the answer is not potentially everyone, you are cannibalizing your own practice. Do you think that the front office girl who's responsible for 50 to 70% of your patient volume, good or bad, making minimum wage, feels good about the fact that she has clients that call 3, 4, 5, 7 times, tell her their whole life story, she'll spend an hour on the phone and stay late even though she's salaried just to listen to that patient? And after 3, 4 weeks of this, the patient finally comes in because that patient's built a rapport with whoever's answering the phone, your front office girl, and then that client comes in, and because she's already built a relationship with the front office girl, that client is the easiest close in the world, and the closer takes 20% and she gets nothing. As far as I'm concerned, that's moronic. You are internally cannibalizing your own practice. Everyone sells, everyone benefits. Now, how does this shape out in a practice? You may say, Dr. Martin, that doesn't make sense. I've got a closer in my office. Everyone can't sell. Some people are great at it, some people aren't great at it. I don't know how my front office girl can sell. I can tell you how she'll sell. What incentive have you given her to sell? Have you given her benchmarks or KPIs, key performance indicators, so that she can get bonus? If you haven't, you're stupid, and you're going to lose your front office girl. Because somebody who does understand KPIs, who does understand the value of a great front office girl, will incentivize her and she will leave you. Why would I give a bonus to my girl that answers the phone? You shouldn't give a bonus to the one girl who answers your phone. you should have 2 girls that answer the phone. So if ever there is a time when calls come in at the same time, someone is there to pick the phone up before it rings more than twice. If the phone rings 4, 5, 7 times in any office and then goes to voicemail in the middle of the day, people don't think that you're busy. People think your office sucks. They think there's nobody there. You're on vacation. You closed for lunch. You can't be bothered to take their call. If an answering service picks up, that's okay. But if the answering service doesn't know anything about you, nothing about the practice, and it's just being farmed out to somebody overseas, you think that gives a patient who's potentially going to give you a couple $1,000s for an application any confidence that they're going to establish a personal level of rapport with you? No. And what are they going to do? They are going to pick the phone up and they're going to go right down the line and call the next clinic. My suggestion to any of you, you want to market? Great. Market within the 4 walls of your practice. You sit down this week, Saturday, everyone's coming to a training. And everyone who walks in that training on Saturday, you create an incentive structure for everyone to win. If what you're offering in your office is IV infusions, and your IV infusions are, let's use $5,000, everyone in the office should know that that's a $5,000 price tag. And I don't care if it's an MA, I don't care if it's your phone fairy, I don't care if it's your closer, I don't care if it's your NP or your MD, I don't care who it is. You should set up a commission structure so that at least 10% of gross either goes to the individual that closed or goes to the team. At times, it will take a team to close the individual. Front office girl got the patient in. The MA, while the patient was leaving the office, who just came in for a cough and cold, the MA says, you know what? You seem to have been in the office more often than I remember. How many times have you gotten sick this year? Actually, I've gotten sick more times this year than I ever have before. And the MA says, you know what? We have patients getting wellness infusions and they are doing absolutely wonderfully. And then, because you've taught her how to sell, she gives what? A personal story, the strongest measure of sales. You know what? I used to get sick all the time as well. And the office offers a huge discount to friends and family. And actually, I was a little skeptical myself. But you know what? I got an exosome infusion with glutathione and Myers cocktail. And I didn't get sick for 6 months. And I know I should do it more often, but I'm super busy and I just had a new baby. But at least twice a year, I get an IV infusion with exosomes, Myers cocktail, and glutathione. You've been sick quite a lot, Mrs. Smith. You know, would you want to schedule a consultation with, John, who ends up being the closer? And maybe John can give you more information about our IV wellness programs. Now, who closed that client? The MA steered a patient who was leaving the office back to the closer. The two of them closed, they split the 10%. Now, at times, this will be difficult for you to assess because everyone's going to want to reach into the pie. And so you know what you do? You just be smarter than everybody else. 10% goes to the individual or individuals that closed, right? 5% always goes to the team above the goal for the month. If your goal for the month is to close 15 IV infusions, if the team reaches that goal, everyone in the office splits 5% of those 15 procedures. Now everyone's motivated to sell, even if they weren't involved in a close. Everyone is moving to sell this. Now you're the practice owner, right? You're going to make plenty of money on this. You want to know why? Because everyone is selling, not just you. It isn't just the nurse practitioner who's suggesting that that patient should get it. It isn't just the closer that's suggesting they should get it, or your front office girl, or the person answering the phone, right? It's everyone. And the reason I call it a phone fairy is because a really good phone person is like sprinkling fairy dust all over potential customers. I mean, give me anyone with a British accent, somebody who's hungry to make more money, right? And someone who has an invested interest in human beings, and she or he will outperform anyone else on the phone. Anyone. Doesn't have to be a British accent, but it's lovely. French accent, Hispanic accent, I don't care, right? None of this has anything to do with spending a single dime outside your practice. None of it. I talked to a doctor on Monday. Massive practice, 15,000 patients. What did she want to do? She wanted to talk about marketing. How do I make more money? It's some of the simplest things that she could have done in her practice she wasn't doing, and she's just throwing money out the door. You know, there's a statement, we're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. Everyone watching this, including me, I did this for years. I didn't do it right. Everyone's tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. We're so concerned about likes and our Instagram presence and how many followers we have. At no point in time has there ever been any proven, consistent ROI for money spent on social media campaigns. Never. No one's ever made money doing it. Well, Platinum's made money doing it, but I mean, they know what they're doing. This is not that hard. Now, if you want to book a call with me and you want to put your entire team on the phone, send an email to support@platinumbiologics.com. I can talk this through with your entire team. We can figure out how to structure a way for your entire team to win. You may say, well, Dr. Martin, I don't charge $5,000 for everything. My margin's much smaller. Why? Why is your margin so small? If you're like, well, Dr. Martin, I buy products at $1,000 and I just don't feel good about selling, so I only charge $1,500. I don't have any margin to make any more money. I'm only making $500 a procedure. Guess what? That's a you problem. That is a you problem. You don't appreciate your own prowess. You have a mental block. I talked to a doctor just yesterday. Ivy League college, Ivy League residency, Ivy League fellowship, Ivy League training and medical practice. One of the brightest providers I've ever met. Pedigreed out the hilt. Massive, massive inferiority complex asking for cash. Now I guarantee the Ivy League school that they went to had no problem asking them for $100,000 a year for college. No, they weren't embarrassed to ask for the money. If you spent that much money, $400,000, $500,000 for your education, you should have spent it to have the receipts to be able to get that money back. I've told anyone that wants to listen, I'm never going to be the brightest guy in the room. Hell, I went to a foreign medical school out of the country. I went to school in the Caribbean. I did residency at Wayne State by God's grace. I just literally talked my way in. I did fellowship at University of Michigan, but that was by gift of my good friend John Yarjanian. And again, me talking my way in. I don't know that I warranted doing that fellowship, but when it was presented to me, I was closing that. Definitely, absolutely. Do I suffer from a little excess of ego? Yeah. And you know why? Because you have to have ego to perform. If you're scared about putting a lead in the spinal cord of a human being, you shouldn't do it. If you're scared about driving a needle millimeters from a nerve root, you shouldn't do it. If you're scared about listening to a complex patient and putting together a treatment paradigm with very, very potent medications, you shouldn't do it. But newsflash, all of you are. Many of you are surgeons. I'm a needle jockey. At best, I'm a needle jockey. Many of you are surgeons. Most of you are Ivy League trained. As a matter of fact, almost all of you are US trained. I'm not. What I'm telling you is if I can ask for money without any of your credentials, what is stopping all of you? I am here to help, and I am humbled and honored to help. I talk to some of the brightest people. I talk to some of the most accomplished individuals, people that have built marvelous, huge, dedicated practices. 15,000 patients, that's a massive practice. Do you know how much time and effort it works to take? Do you know how much you have to care? How many emails you have to write? How many charts you have to thoroughly document to build a 15,000 patient practice? It's wonderfully impressive. And if you're watching this, you are wonderfully impressive because you gutted through yet another lecture of me mumbling through, right? I do this all day, every day, not because I haven't done it myself. I'm not a teacher who hasn't done. I still continue to run a medical practice. I see very exclusive patients all over the country. I lecture nationally, internationally. I still publish. We're launching 3 IRBs this year. We'll be launching a 510K. I am always busy, but I am busy most serving because that is what gives me the most joy. If you learn anything from this or from me, it's that my role and my joy is simply helping you help patients. In all of the people that I'm talking to, hundreds a week, I'm taking that synthesis of knowledge, consolidate that into these videos with my 25 years of medical experience, all to try to make you and your practice and your patient outcomes better. And the reason I do it is because nobody else will. I'm Dr. Martin. Please have a very blessed day.